Why the you lying? Why?
Have you ever been stuck trying to figure out a very difficult problem and you go through all the complicated methods of figuring out that problem, but you can never arrive to the solution? But then suddenly, while you're taking a nice, hot, warm shower, you realize that the solution was the most simple thing that you could have ever thought. This is what is known in philosophy as a comms razor. The simple solution is the best solution. And recently, a comms razor seemed to slap me in the face as I was trying to figure out Chopper's true devil fruit. Like many One Piece enthusiasts like myself have noticed, Chopper has never turned into a full human Zoan, and it has led many, like myself, to realize that Chopper does not have a human fruit at all. Rather, he has a mythical variation of a fruit that he's completely unaware of.
This is the basis behind most Chopper devil fruit theories, and I've seen many awesome theories ranging from Chopper is the forest god to Chopper is a Yeti. And while those theories certainly propose some very interesting ideas, I think these are examples of us as the readers overcomplicating the true nature of Chopper's devil fruit. Because the answer is actually very simple. So simple, like me, you're going to be so upset you didn't realize this sooner. It gets me so upset just thinking about how this raccoon dog's true devil fruit has eluded me and many others for decades. But the answer has been right in front of our eyes this whole time. So you know how Chopper is called Tanuki throughout the whole story, and he always denies it, and it's written as a consistent gag in almost every single arc, and when we hear this we simply laugh and move on. Well, you may regret not taking that joke more seriously after you hear this theory. Like my favorite rapper J. Cole once said, all good jokes contain true-ish. So one day I decided to take J. Cole's advice and look more into this gag, and that led me to doing a quick Google search to find out what exactly a Tanuki is. On my first search, I got the answer that we already know because it's emphasized in the One Piece story. A Tanuki is an animal in Japan that resembles what looks like a raccoon dog. Okay, Google search over, right? Wrong. Now let's look up what a Tanuki is in Japanese mythology. Listen closely to what I'm about to tell you. The Tanuki is a mythical animal based on the real animal. The Tanuki contains the ability to shapeshift into just about anything. The Tanuki became associated in stories with transforming into humans to drink, party, and have fun alongside them. Does that sound familiar? A small mythological animal resembling a raccoon that can shapeshift and turn into a human. Oda, through Chopper's Tanuki gag, has been telling us this whole time that Chopper's true devil fruit is the mythical Tanuki Zoan devil fruit. Chopper this whole time has not turned into a full human because his fruit is not the human fruit at all. The Tanuki can turn to just about anything, which is why Chopper has so many different forms that doesn't resemble a human at all. All of Chopper's points, arm point, heavy point, brain point, horn point, jump point, kung fu point, and even monster point were just him using the unawakened powers of the Tanuki to transform his body in any shape or form he desired. And it's very likely that Chopper hasn't been able to turn into a full human until he can awaken the full mythological transformation powers of the Tanuki. See, the answer was simple this whole time, but the point of this theory video would not be focused so much on selling you on the idea, rather focusing on how exactly we have missed this for 20 years and what this means for Chopper's significance in the endgame story.
The most important thing to keep in mind throughout the whole video is that the Tanuki could turn into just about anything, not just any animal, but any non-living thing as well. So if Chopper wanted to, he can turn into a sword, he can turn into a tree, or he can even turn into a table for that matter. On that note, let me introduce you to our amazing sponsor, FlexiSpot's sitting and standing desk.
Imagine a desk that adapts to your needs just like Chopper transforms to fit any situation. FlexiSpot's height adjustable desks offer the flexibility to go from sitting to standing effortlessly, allowing you to customize your workspace for maximum comfort and efficiency. Whether you're working from home and participating in your daily stand-up meetings or working on your next big personal project, do it with the flexibility and comfort that only FlexiSpot can offer. Let me show you guys how this futuristic desk works. It's actually very simple. If you'd like to raise the height, you simply press and hold the upwards facing arrow button until you get your desired height. If you'd like to lower the height, just simply press and hold the downward facing arrow button until you get the desired low height you may need. And check out how cool this is. there's even ports to charge your devices on the right hand side. And this emphasizes how cool and technological this desk truly is. It truly takes the traditional desk to a whole new level. So don't miss out on these beautiful standing desks, guys. You can even win a free one in their giveaway if you follow their Amazon page and watch their live streams.
A huge shout out to FlexiSpot for sponsoring this video. Don't miss out on their beautiful standing desk, especially this upcoming Black Friday through Cyber Monday. They will be having an up to 7% off sale on all their orders. And if you get it from the 24th to the 27th, you'll get free shipping on all your orders as well. So click the link in the description to get yours today. I promise you won't regret it. Now anyways, let's get back to the theory video.
So how exactly did we miss this very simple theory about Chopper's devil fruit? Well, it all goes back to Occam's razor. You see, I believe that Oda intentionally writes One Piece as a huge puzzle. Not only are our main antagonists looking for the treasure of One Piece, but we as the readers are trying to figure it out as well, and Oda knows this. That's why One Piece theories are synonymous with the story itself. Oftentimes, Oda gives us clues about the story in a variety of well-known puzzles. For example, with the traitor situation in Egghead, Oda actually draws a popular puzzle problem called Where's Waldo? Where's Waldo is a British series of children's puzzle books created by English illustrator Martin Hanford. The books consist of a series of detailed double-page spread illustrations depicting dozens or more people doing a variety of amusing things at a given location. In this puzzle, readers are challenged to find a character named Wally Waldo hidden in the group. Oda actually uses this puzzle framework in chapter 1074, where we see a double-page spread of the Straw Hats and the Vegapunks in a group doing a variety of amusing things. And Oda challenges us as the readers to find Waldo here, or in this case, he challenges us as the readers to find the traitor of Egghead Island, which we later find out is York. Now, for Chopper, the way he gives us clues about his character is through Occam's razor in puzzle format. In Occam's razor, the simple and the most obvious solution is usually the right one. So how does he do this with Chopper? Well, if you remember, Chopper, especially in pre-time skip, had this gag that Oda always used for him. The gag where Chopper tries to hide himself, but in actuality he does the opposite and reveals his full body. This gag is meant to represent that Chopper does a horrible job at hiding himself. Oda does this in another similar gag with Chopper when someone tells him a compliment and he acts as if he's not flattered, but in actuality he's clearly flattered. Again, Oda telling us that he'd like to depict Chopper as a character that cannot hide his true nature. So what I'm trying to say here is that Oda gives us clues on Chopper hidden in plain sight, but the funny thing is Chopper always denies the truth in himself, but it's always apparent to other people. The biggest way this is shown is through the consistent gag of people calling Chopper a Tanuki. Chopper always replies by saying, "I'm not a Tanuki, I'm a reindeer." But in actuality, Chopper looks nothing like a reindeer in any of his points besides walk point. Funny thing is, the main point Chopper uses on a daily basis is what most looks like a Tanuki. That small little cute version of him is what most people are attributing to a Tanuki because it actually looks like the Japanese myth of the Tanuki. But he doesn't know that, yet to anyone else the answer is very clear. What's especially interesting about Chopper's devil fruit is that the Tanuki is often seen as a trickster god that disguises himself as a human, which is interesting since Chopper has literally tricked himself to think he's a human, when in actuality he can only access human traits because he is a Tanuki that can turn into anything. It just so happened Chopper may have always wanted to walk and talk like a human, so his devil fruit allows him to do as he pleases to some extent. So the reason we as readers never even consider that Chopper can be a mythical Tanuki is that we were also tricked by Chopper because of what he himself considered to be the truth. Another reason why we never considered Chopper was a Tanuki is because of the actual Tanuki animal not having any mythological powers. So if you began to think, hey, what if Chopper is a Tanuki? You would dismiss the idea that he can be one because that would make him a normal Zoan, and it wouldn't make sense how he can transform into a humanoid. I find the way Oda hid Chopper's devil fruit to be genius because he hid it in plain sight, but in a double layered puzzle. It's as if you hid a book behind another book, and you knew people were not going to look behind the first book because it was something uninteresting and bland. So they wouldn't wouldn't get to the second book, which is vastly more interesting. Just as we didn't even think Chopper could be a Tanuki, because the first thing that comes to our mind is the normal Tanuki, but there's actually a mythological version of the Tanuki. I also think this is Oda's way of paying homage to mythical simplicity. What I mean by that is that often in reality, we create very complicated things with very complicated explanations. For example, a computer is a very complex piece of technology that has many parts and many complex functions. If you had to explain what a computer is to someone from the 1600s, you'd have to sit them through a whole lecture because you'd have to explain them concepts that may have not even existed in their era. You'd have to tell them complicated words and confusing jargon on code, hardware, and technology. But what if you could just tell them that a computer is a magical book that tells you whatever you want? They would immediately get what you mean. Mythical simplicity is comforting because we can just attribute things to magic, gods, or mythical creatures. It's a method we've been using for centuries as a species, and it's definitely not going to die off anytime soon. Sometimes the answer is simply magic, and that is a beautiful worldview that may make some of us happier, to be honest. So in the case of Chopper, the answer is a magical creature rather than a normal creature. Isn't that so much more fun? Speaking of fun, I think the most fun part of this theory is what the Tanuki's abilities mean for Chopper's future capabilities as a doctor. Remember, the Tanuki can turn into anything. I believe when Chopper awakens the Tanuki fruit is when he will truly be able to turn into anything, but for now it seems he can just change up his biology slightly with some limitations. But once he awakens, it will be on a completely different level. It's so awesome to imagine that Chopper would be able to turn into literally every animal, which would make him some sort of king of animals. Chopper switching from being a lion to a dinosaur to maybe even a bird at will would make him so broken. Especially if he turned into an insect, he'd be able to infiltrate anything using his small insect body. But what I most want to highlight here is how his manipulation of his biology would make him the greatest doctor of all time. The goal of a doctor is to understand your biology so that they can give you the appropriate medicine. And medicine could come in the form of plants and even other animals. If Chopper's Tanuki ability allows him to not only turn himself but other things into whatever he wants, he can quite literally make any type of medicine he needs as fast as possible. We see that with Luffy's mythical zone awakening, he can affect his environment. So it's not far-fetched that Chopper would be able to do the same thing. So whatever medicine he may need, he can literally grab like a rock or something and turn it into the plant he may need to make the medicine, which would mean that he will have no limitations as a doctor when it comes to getting the necessary ingredients he needs to make the remedies and heal people. Another important implication behind Chopper being able to turn to anything would be his ability to fight off sickness himself. Consider the idea that some illnesses and poisons that can be deadly to one animal may be completely safe to another animal. A great example of this is the koala. The koala's main diet is eucalyptus trees, but eucalyptus trees are toxic and poisonous to most other herbivores besides the koala, which means that the koala is immune to a toxin that would otherwise be poisonous to anyone else. So this suggests that if one can change their biology accordingly, they can cure a toxin that was previously harmful to their biology. So if Chopper can understand a disease or poison he's been afflicted with on a biological level, he can manipulate his biology to turn into something that's immune to that toxin. This will be especially important when you consider Chopper's possible future fight with Doc Q. In chapter 1073, we learned that Doc Q has the 6-6 fruit. What's interesting is that Doc Q was able to give Law a feminization disease that manipulated Law's biology to turn him into a woman. But if Chopper was inflicted with that disease, it would not work because Chopper can simply turn himself back into a man. It's very likely that this is how Chopper and Doc Q's fight would play out, with Doc Q giving Chopper different diseases and Chopper manipulating his biology to turn into something that negates the disease, which would be an amazing fight to see. But could you imagine if Chopper trolls Doc Q by turning into a robot that has no biological weaknesses during the fight so that any sickness wouldn't work? But jokes aside, the mythical Tanuki fruit is the perfect fruit for Chopper as a doctor because it doesn't simply give Chopper a broken devil fruit that can cure all diseases. Rather, he would have to use his brain and understanding of biological science to counter all the diseases he learned about with his own manipulation of his own biology, which actually opens up the idea that the true cure for all diseases is freedom. The freedom to adapt and change your biology accordingly, which is poetic because it means that Chopper's true goal is not to make some type of ultimate immunity cure-all. Rather, his goal will be to see diseases as a natural part of nature that doesn't need to be cured all the time, but rather adapted to, which to me is a beautiful line of character growth for this future greatest doctor of all time. The mythical Tanuki fruit will propel Chopper to new heights as a character, as a doctor, and as a fighter. But last but not least, I'd like to explore the narrative implications of the true nature of Chopper's devil fruit and how it will tell us a lot about the future of the story and our main cast. So one of the most important things to consider regarding Chopper being a mythical Tanuki is that it confirms that now there are two mythical Zoan devil fruits on the crew. First, we have Luffy's sun god Nika fruit, and now we may have Chopper's mythical Tanuki fruit. The reason this is extremely important because it raises the possibility that Luffy and Chopper are not the only mythical Zoans on the crew. We know that almost every crew in the verse has a consistent theme in their abilities. With Shanks' crew, it seems that they are all hockey users. With Kaido's crew, they seem to have an ancient Zoan devil fruit theme. With Big Mom's crew, they seem to have devil fruits based on food. But what theme of abilities does Luffy's crew have? At a glance, it's tempting to just assume that Luffy's crew doesn't have a theme. On the surface, this idea is appealing because one can say that Luffy's crew is based on freedom, so there should be no cohesive theme in their powers. But I actually think this isn't the case at all. In fact, there's a consistent theme within the crew that has been emphasized throughout the whole story. See, the whole Straw Hats are based on mischievous and rebellious gods and deities. We already know Luffy has the sun god Nika fruit, the god of freedom who laughs and smiles all the time. Nika may also be seen as the god of revolution, which in the eyes of the world government would be seen as a mischievous and troublesome god. Next, we have Usopp, who actually has the epithet of god Usopp. In my Usopp theory, I propose that Usopp is based on the Norse trickster god Loki, a mischievous god that tricks and deceives other gods in Norse mythology. Next, we have Zoro, who is based on Ashura and also literally can harness the powers of Ashura. But for those who don't know, the Ashura in Hindu mythology is a class of beings defined by their opposition to the Devas or Shuras, which are gods. Yet again, another rebellious god. Next, we have Sanji, who is actually based on the Ifrit, a fire spirit based on the Islamic mythology. Hence, Sanji's most recent technique, Ifrit Jambe. Actually, we can also see that Sanji is depicted as the Judeo-Christian deity known as the devil, especially considering his technique is Diable Jambe, and Diable is the French word for devil. Both the Ifrit and the devil are rebellious deities of Christianity and Islam, which share a root connection to Judaism. In my Brook theory, I actually propose the idea that Brook is based on the Vodou spirit of death of Baon Samedi, which is often depicted to be playful and having an outrageous personality, which many consider to be mischievous, another mischievous god. Although I haven't figured out Nami and Robin's depictions of mischievous gods, we can clearly observe from the story that Robin was called Demon Child and Nami was called the Cat Burglar, which both have a mischievous undertone to them. Frankie and Jinbei are still a mystery, but I'm sure one of you in the comments may be able to come up with something. But you get the picture, right? The Straw Hats theme are mythical deities and gods of mischief, which makes all the more sense when you factor in the very likely possibility of Chopper being a Tanuki, because the Tanuki is seen as a trickster or mischievous god. This is especially important because the celestial dragons are seen as the pure and good gods of their world, so any rebellious god of mischief would be their direct enemy. So it's no wonder that all the Straw Hats are represented by funny gags, because their godly depictions are of gods who laugh, play, and don't take things too seriously, which some may see as mischievous or troublesome. But the most interesting idea we can explore in these themes is the very likely possibility that all of the Straw Hats will be able to tap into some mythological ability of the gods they are based on, whether it be a mythical devil fruit, haki, or another form of power system we have yet to be introduced to. That's why Chopper's Tanuki devil fruit is the gateway towards understanding the true power of the Straw Hat crew once they fully tap into their hidden potential. I especially wanted to highlight this because lately it seems like Chopper is the mascot of the crew, but actually I don't think this is a bad thing if we give more meaning and depth behind what it means to be a mascot. A mascot is a person, animal, or object adopted by a group as a symbolic figure figure, especially to bring them good luck. The mascot also gives us great insight on what the group represents, but the way I see it is through Chopper we can understand the true nature of the Straw Hat crew. Just like Chopper, the Straw Hat crew is very playful and goofy, but this also means they are often very underestimated as a crew, just as Chopper is very often underestimated. But in actuality, when things get serious, just like Chopper, the whole crew can all become monsters. I believe this is an intentional portrayal of the crew because of an interesting dialogue I spotted at the beginning of Egghead. See, in chapter 1062, after realizing that the Straw Hats are not at all surrounded by her mecha animals and that she was the one in real danger, Lilith said something interesting referring to the goofy tendencies of the Straw Hat crew. She said, "Those imbeciles around them lulled me into a false sense of security. Confounded, I was careless." I think this dialogue tells us exactly how Oda wants to portray the Straw Hats. On the surface, they are silly and goofy like Chopper, and they seem to not pose too much of a threat. In fact, it's actually Zoro or Robin who gives it away that the crew is incredibly strong. But what usually happens is that people underestimate the Straw Hats, and this usually leads to their eventual downfall, because even the goofy captain and the more goofy members of the crew lull them into a false sense of security. To me, this is an amazing narrative theme with the crew, and it's the exact reason Chopper is their mascot, because despite Chopper's small and cute exterior, playful personality, and very low bounty, he is actually a mythical monster that will destroy you if you underestimate him, which is why Chopper's mythical Tanuki fruit is based on a trickster deity who is actually incredibly powerful. So put some respect on our lovely Tanuki doctor. He is much stronger and much more important than it seems. It is through him we understand that the Straw Hats are destined to be the strongest crew of all time, while still remaining the lovable and enjoyable characters we all fell in love with. That's the theory, guys. Hope you enjoy watching and listening to the video. Let me know in the comments if you believe in this theory. If not, let me know why. And make sure to like the video before you leave and subscribe to the channel to continue hearing the most interesting One Piece theories ever. And one more thing before you go, Kuma has been a hot topic lately, and I have the 2 best theories on YouTube on what exactly is going to happen when he dies and who exactly is going to get his devil fruit. So check those out. Middle way out.